Welcome everyone to week 2 of the cheat meal presented by Deep Fried Draft. My name is Brian Bosarge. Briefly, we're going to go over what happened in college football last week. Only 2 games on the docket. Cal and Hawaii played in Australia. The main focus of that game was Cal quarterback Davis Webb, who transferred from Texas Tech. Had a shaky start, but finished solid. Comparing him to Jared Goff, the quarterback he's replacing, Davis, bigger frame than Goff. He's got a stronger arm as Goff, but not as accurate. The other game of the weekend was the FCS kickoff between North Dakota State and Charleston Southern. Our focus of that game was on North Dakota State linebacker Nick DeLuca. Could play outside, could play inside at the next level. DeLuca's very quick. Sifts through the trash well, sure tackler. Injured his shoulder sometime in the first half, didn't play in the second half. So we'll monitor that going forward. Other news in college football this week, Miami kicks off junior defensive end Al-Qadim Muhammad, promising young pass rusher, tied up in some sort of luxury car scandal. I don't know. Kicked off the team. So I don't know what that stands for in the future. The Deep Fried Draft Rookie of the Week this week, preseason week 3, goes to Houston Texans outside linebacker Brennan Scarlett. Scarlett 6 tackles, 2 sacks against Arizona. Has had a pretty good preseason, probably going to make the team. Now we're going to go over the 18 games that Deep Fried Draft looking at this weekend. With it being the Labor Day weekend and opening weekend, we generally try to focus on more games than normal. Like a normal week, we'll watch 10 to 12 games. This week, like I said, 18 because of the extra days. You have games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and one game on Monday. We're going to start on Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. on the SEC Network, Appalachian State at Tennessee. Appalachian State going to be one of the top teams in the Sun Belt Conference. They had 3 players on the Senior Bowl's initial 400-player watch list. That includes inside linebacker John Law, running back Marcus Cox, and safety Alex Bray. I've never really concentrated on those guys, so I'm interested to see them play against top competition. Tennessee, big expectations this year, huge favorite in the SEC East. They haven't been able to meet expectations for several years now, but this team is loaded with talent. And starts with tailback Jalen Hurd, who I don't think gets enough recognition for what he does. Huge, 6'2", 230-pound tailback, catches the ball, runs with power. Probably going to be a big-time player at the next level this time next year. He teams with former Alabama player Alvin Kamara to form a nice backfield for the Vols. Also Thursday night, 7 p.m. on ESPN. South Carolina opens the season at Vanderbilt. Will Muschamp era opens for the Gamecocks. The talent level at Carolina, the lowest level it's been at in years. The old ball coach did not do the Gamecocks solid there. With his lackluster recruiting efforts these last few years. Player to watch for the Gamecocks, though, is true sophomore tight end Hayden Hurst, 6'5", 260. Was involved with the offense a little last year as a true freshman, but expect him to play a huge role for the Gamecock offense this year. Soft hands, big frame, can block. He is the rare draft-eligible true sophomore as he played 2 years of minor league baseball in the Pirates organization before coming to South Carolina. Vanderbilt should have a really good defense led by inside linebacker Zach Cunningham. Also running back Ralph Webb, a playmaker for Vanderbilt. 8 p.m. on Thursday on the Big Ten Network. And I should note all these times I'm throwing out at your Central Standard Time because, well, that's where I'm located. But Big Ten Network, 8 p.m. Oregon State at Minnesota. Beaver wide receiver Jordan Villeman junior, 6'5", 231, huge target, big catch radius, very athletic. He's a guy to watch for there. From Minnesota, we touched briefly last week on quarterback Mitch Leidner. Also like the size of senior offensive tackle Jonah Persig, 6'8", 340. Excuse me. On Friday, 7 p.m. ESPN, the annual battle in Colorado between Colorado and Colorado State. That game to be played in Denver. Question coming in for Buffalo quarterback Sefo Lufau. He has some traits that would lend itself to the NFL, but needs to show more. Been injured a lot. Their top prospect may just be defensive tackle Josh Tupou, who was suspended all of last season. So he's got the red flag character issues, but he can clog up the middle and can be a playmaker on that defense. Interesting to see Colorado State quarterback Nick Stevens, just a junior, probably not going to come out this year, but 6'3", just under 200 pounds. Interesting to see. Like I said, I want to get a look at him. 8 p.m. on Friday night, Kansas State's at Stanford. That's on Fox Sports 1. Top player for the Wildcats is going to be junior outside linebacker Elijah Lee, 6'3", 220. Anxious to get a good look at him. Stanford always loaded with NFL guys. David Shaw does a great job developing players in that program. But Christian McCaffrey, he's the guy that's going to get everybody's attention. One of the Heisman Trophy favorites. This guy is just a playmaker, running, receiving, returns, just whatever. He's a guy you're going to want on your team at the next level, no doubt. Saturday morning gets started early. Dublin, Ireland hosting 6:30 a.m. on ESPN2, Georgia Tech and Boston College. Georgia Tech, not a whole lot of NFL quality players. There's a couple we'll get into probably as the season goes along. Boston College, Kentucky quarterback transfer Patrick Towles was thought very highly regarded in NFL circles last year. Ends up losing his job, transfers to BC. Could have a good year for the Eagles. Also like junior running back John Hillman. 11 a.m. on CBS Sports Network, Fordham at Navy. Fordham, not generally what you would call an NFL talent hotbed, but they have a tight end named Faison Odom, 6'8", 240. Guy lines up in the slot, lines up in line, great blocker, great soft hands, looks like he's got decent speed. This guy is going to be drafted high next year. Probably, I could see him going in the mid-second round area. Probably a guy you want to see at the Senior Bowl next year against top flight competition, which is why I'm watching him against Navy, because I believe this is their only game against an FBS opponent this year. Generally, I don't scout the Service Academy players because of their commitment that they have to the Navy, but the Academy seem to be lax in that now, where they're letting the players serve their commitment in other ways and allowing them to pursue NFL careers, which when we get to Air Force later this year, they have 2 players on their team that definitely on NFL radars, and we'll talk about them at a later date. 11 a.m. on ABC, one of the big games of the week is Houston and Oklahoma. This game is being played at technically a neutral site game, being played at Reliant Stadium. Houston led by quarterback Greg Ward Jr. Now, he's an interesting case. He's a sub-6-foot quarterback. He has arm talent, definitely can make plays with his feet, but you have to wonder if the size is going to limit how the NFL team's approaching. Is he a running back? Is he a receiver? Is he a quarterback? You know, Seattle is obviously a team that doesn't really care how big their quarterbacks are, as judged by Russell Wilson and Trevon Boykin, a rookie from TCU, who's going to be their backup. Both sub-6-foot guys. Houston's a team that they're outside the Power 5 conferences, but have a chance to make the college football playoff if they can win this game Saturday and they play Louisville later in the season, and they would also, of course, need to run the table. Oklahoma, high expectations again, but generally when Oklahoma has high expectations, they get the Choklahoma label that is thrown at them often. Baker Mayfield, fun to watch. Is he an NFL quarterback? I don't know. But he's fun to watch. Um, in my opinion, their best pro prospect is a redshirt sophomore. It's tight end Mark Andrews. This guy, he can play. Stretch the field, soft hands, great blocker. He's a guy, maybe not in the 2017 draft, but definitely probably in the 2018 draft. He's going to be first round caliber. 11 a.m. also, we're watching on the SEC network. South Alabama is at Mississippi State. South Alabama, not loaded with NFL talent, maybe one or two guys that you could see in a camp. But tight end Gerald Everett is definitely a guy who could get a look. Late round, undrafted free agent type. He can make plays. Mississippi State, they've got questions at quarterback. Dak Prescott, who is now the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, we'll get to that later. They have to replace him. He was a 3 to 4 year starter. Their defensive line is going to be outstanding. I mean, we're talking three guys on their defensive line, probably going to be in NFL camps next year. A couple of them could be top 100 guys. A.J. Jefferson is definitely the top of those players. 2:30 p.m. on ABC. LSU and Wisconsin playing in Lambeau Field should be fun. A fun game to watch in that atmosphere. LSU's another team, probably outside of maybe Alabama, and they may even be more talented than Alabama player for player. That's a completely judgmental question, but they have questions at the quarterback position. And until they get those questions answered, it could hamper them again. Leonard Fournette, they're just out-and-out stud player, Heisman Trophy frontrunner, been banged up in fall practice, but they say he's going to be full go, so we'll see about that. Wisconsin, this is a down year for them for draft-eligible talent. Their top player, outside linebacker Vince Beagle. 2:30 p.m. on CBS, UCLA at Texas A&M, and this should be a fun game. UCLA's got the best non-draft eligible quarterback in the country in Josh Rosen. He's going to be a player. Defensive tackle Eddie Vander, who's coming off an injury. Want to see how he bounces back. Could be a first-round talent if he bounces back from his leg injuries. Texas A&M is, I've never seen really anything like it in the last year and a half. Just five-star quarterback after five-star quarterback comes into their program and leaves. Kenny Hill, 2 years ago, open season against South Carolina, ran amok. Everybody was like, oh, here's the great player, and then he's benched and gone. And now he's actually named the starter at TCU, so we'll probably see him a lot this year. Last year, Kyler Murray, five-star quarterback. Kyle Allen, five-star quarterback. Guess what? They're both gone. And funny thing is, I read an article earlier today talking about the scout team for Houston and Oklahoma, led by these two quarterbacks. Allen's at Houston, Murray's at Oklahoma. They're running the scout teams for those two schools. So former Oklahoma quarterback Trevor Knight, who had a huge game against Alabama in the Sugar Bowl a few years ago, and then just kind of disappeared off the face of the planet. Well, he's resurfaced at Texas A&M. He's the starting quarterback there. But he's got some receivers to throw to. Ricky Seals-Jones, Speedy Noel, Josh Reynolds. I mean, these three guys probably NFL receivers this time next year. So he won't have a lack of options to throw to. 4:30 p.m. on ESPN, Georgia, North Carolina. They're playing in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. Nick Chubb and Sony Michel, two good running backs. Chubb outstanding before his knee injury last year. I want to see how he bounces back. Sony Michel, broken form. They say he may be able to play Saturday. Don't really know yet. Georgia hasn't named a starting quarterback yet. Could be true freshman Jacob Eason. Could be senior Grayson Lambert. I really wanted to like Grayson Lambert. I saw something in him at Virginia, but then last year he was not good. So anxious to see that. North Carolina is replacing Marquise Williams, who was a longtime starter there. I've heard nothing but positive things about junior quarterback Mitch Trubisky. I haven't watched him throw. So I mean that's something I'm looking forward to seeing Saturday. Another great running back. It's overlooked because this running back class is loaded. Is Elijah Hood at North Carolina. I mean, this guy has just big time breakaway speed, and so it's just another guy that you want to watch play. 6:30 Saturday night on ESPNU. I added this game late from another game. I dropped one game and added this one. Southern Miss is at Kentucky, and I wrote up quarterback Nick Mullins earlier in the offseason. Um, he's a he could get in an NFL camp. I don't know that he's going to be on an NFL roster this time next year, but he should get in a camp. I really like Ito Smith. He's a junior running back. Um, he's small, very versatile, catches the ball well, and it's well documented how much I like running backs that catch the ball. Same can be said for Kentucky running back JoJo Kemp. He's another small, fast running back, can catch the ball. 7 p.m. on ABC. This is the marquee matchup of the week because it's just NFL talent on both sides of the ball, loaded. Alabama, Southern Cal from Cowboy State or AT&T Stadium in Arlington. This is odd for Alabama. Their defense, this could be arguably the best defense Nick Saban has ever had in Tuscaloosa. And that's saying a lot because their defenses have been really good. But Alabama has never had a pass rush like they have now. Probably since the date 1992 with Curry and Copeland coming off the end, has Alabama had a pass rush like they're going to have with Tim Williams and Ryan Anderson and Jonathan Allen. And these guys are phenomenal. These guys will all play in the NFL next year. Tim Williams, statistically last year, the most sacks per field action, just because he only took maybe 15 snaps a game, but very productive in those snaps. Questions for Alabama, and it seems like this is becoming a broken record for Alabama, is their quarterback. They have had quarterback questions coming into the last now 3 seasons in a row. They played in the playoff with Blake Sims somehow. They won a national championship last year with Jacob Coker, who's not very good, to put it mildly. And it's announced yesterday that they'll either start Cooper Bateman or Blake Barnett. Now Barnett's was one of the top high school quarterbacks in the country a few years ago. This year, though, is the first time in a long time that I can remember that you don't have an established running back ready to take over at Alabama. It seems like they've had guys that have transitioned year after year after year after year, going all the way back to like Mark Ingram to Richardson to Lacey to Yeldon to Henry. But now it's Henry to who? Everybody just assumes Bo Scarborough is going to be this phenomenal running back, but he's had academic issues, he's had injury issues. I mean, Is he going to hold up? I mean, he looks the part. He looks like Derrick Henry physically, but can he do it week in, week out? We don't know. So, Southern Cal starting a new quarterback, Max Brown, another. I think he was probably the top quarterback coming out of high school, his senior class. But quarterbacks on their first starts generally do not do well against Alabama. And I believe in the last 3 times a quarterback taking his first start against Alabama, Alabama's outscored them something by like 90 points or something. It hasn't been good. So the Trojans have that going against them. The thing that they do have going for them, though, is that every offensive lineman on their team, save for their left tackle who's getting his first start, good luck, because of an injury, but most everybody else on their offensive line, NFL caliber players. It's probably not going to matter. 8 p.m. on ESPN, Clemson's at Auburn. Auburn's going to start Sean White at quarterback. People are trying to sell me on Sean White that when he was healthy last year, he played well. I don't see it. Their defense, though, Carl Lawson probably could have been a first-round pick even with the injuries last year had he come out. He's going to be one of the better pass rushers in next year's draft. Montravius Adams, very good defensive tackle, top 100 player there, I think, at defensive tackle. Clemson has the top eligible quarterback right now for next year's draft, Deshaun Watson. He's also a Heisman frontrunner. They got a top 3 tight end in Jordan Leggett for next year's draft. Mike Williams, top probably 5 wide receiver coming off an injury. But they got a lot of new faces on defense. Problem is, I don't think Auburn can score enough points to outscore Clemson, and that's what it's going to take. 9:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1 Saturday night, Arizona and BYU playing at University of Phoenix Stadium. Inu Solomon, quarterback for Arizona. NFL talent. But right now he's in a camp battle. Hasn't been named the starting quarterback yet, I do not believe. So anxious to see that. Anxious to see if he progresses from year to year to year. BYU's going to start Taysom Hill, who was injured again last year. Hill's 26 years old. Not an NFL prospect. Too old. Anxious to see Troy Hines, their junior outside linebacker. I've never concentrated on him. But he's got the look, got the size. Anxious to see if he's got the play. Excuse me. 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. ABC, Notre Dame's at Texas. Deshaun Kaiser, a lot of people love him as a quarterback. Red shirts. Notre Dame lists him as a junior. I believe he's technically a redshirt sophomore, but he's 6'4", 230. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really paid attention to him because he hasn't been draft eligible. So I'm anxious to get a good, hard look at him. There is a lack of NFL talent on Texas, and that is just sad. I don't know how this happens. I hear Mac Brown on TV every week as an announcer now, and it's just, you're like, dude, you ruined a program. And Charlie Strong is just in a complete rebuild there. I don't know. 7 p.m. on ESPN Labor Day night on Monday, Florida State and Ole Miss playing in Orlando at the Citrus Bowl. Sean McGuire out. He was likely going to be the starting quarterback. So they're going to start redshirt freshman DeAndre Francois. Last time Florida State started a redshirt freshman quarterback on a Monday night game, worked out pretty well for them. Not saying DeAndre Francois is Jameis Winston. Not saying that. But it did work out the last time. My number 1 overall prospect right now is Florida State running back Dalvin Cook. Just great speed, elusive, catches the ball, pass block, does it all. Is he going to be the number 1 overall pick? No, because he's a running back. But is he Do I think he's the most talented player in the draft next year? Yes. So that goes over the 18 games that we're watching this week. I know that was probably a lot to digest. Like I said, next week we won't have near as many games because next week's slate of games is PU. It does not look good. Let's go over some NFL news now from this week. First of all, we got to clarify a trade we talked about last week. We said that the Patriots had traded center Brian Stork to the Redskins for a conditional 7th-round pick. Well, that trade is now off. Brian Stork has failed his physical. New England has since released Stork. Tony Romo broke a bone in his back in their preseason game on a safety slide the other night. He got hit. He's out, they say, out 6 to 10 weeks. So Dak Prescott, 4th-round pick, Mississippi State, thrown into starter's duty. He's looked great in the first 3 preseason games. But the regular season ain't the preseason. So curious to see how that goes for them. Another trade happened yesterday. Cleveland traded their punter, Andy Lee, who's been an All-Pro, and a 7th-round pick in next year's draft, to Carolina for their punter, Casey Redfern, and a 4th-round pick in 2018. Now, I'll get to the reasons in just a second why the trade was made, but if you can get a 4th-round pick, I don't care if it's 2 years from now for a punter, it's a great trade for the Browns, even if Andy Lee has been an All-Pro. But allegedly the reason he was traded is because he didn't try to make a tackle on a punt return in a preseason game the other night. I don't blame him. I mean, it's preseason. What are you going to get hurt for? But anyway, that's that. He's now goes from Cleveland, who's not going to contend, to Carolina, who was in the Super Bowl. Good for Andy Lee, I guess. Let's see. We had another trade today. Miami's traded Chris McCain, defensive end, outside linebacker, to the Saints, who need pass rush help with Haloi Kakaha out for the year. They get a conditional 7th-round pick. Again, conditions probably if he's on the Saints roster for like 6 weeks or something, they get a pick. Potentially huge news for playoff contending Minnesota Vikings. Teddy Bridgewater tore his ACL, dislocated his knee. There's a lot of damage in there. They said he should be able to recover from it, but it's a huge blow. Happened non-contact in practice today, so that's odd to say the least. But Bridgewater, who was my number 2 overall prospect a few years ago behind Jadeveon Clowney, out for the year, and he was making real strides. So I hate to see that. Teams cut down from 90 players to 75 players. They had to have those cuts in today. No cuts of note. So generally, guys who are getting cut right now are veterans who teams are trying to let catch on somewhere else, or guys that were just essentially maybe camp bodies and teams don't even really want to bring back on their practice squad. You'll see teams in the cuts next week because teams have to be down by Saturday from 75 to 53. So those are the guys that you'll see that teams will try to put back on their practice squads, generally speaking. So we've gone over a lot. It's a huge week. Like I said, opening week of college football. We're ready. I know you're ready. So good luck, everybody. Hope your teams do well, and we'll be back this time next week. Thanks for listening. This is The Cheat Meal presented by DeepFriedDraft.com. I'm Brian Bosarge. Thanks a lot.